Hello, my name's Tamsin Westhorpe and I am sitting in the beautiful garden at St Michael's Hospice in Bartestree, Herefordshire, and I'm thrilled to announce that Hellens Garden Festival will be going ahead this year on the 12th and 13th of June. And the purpose of the festival is that we all have a fabulous day celebrating gardening, as together we are the seeds of change, which is this year's theme. And even more wonderful is the funds. 75% of the funds from this event go towards the hospice garden here. So I'm here with Steve, who's the head gardens volunteer, to find out what projects are in store for this amazing space. Steve, it's so good to see you again. Nearly a year ago.
Absolutely.
Since I was here last.
I know.
Isn't it a funny May? It's cold. But tell me, how's your year been? Because it's not been straightforward, I would imagine.
No, absolutely. It's been somewhat difficult, as we all know. But we've been able to come into the hospice garden and venture on. Yeah. And we've been quite busy. Basically, this time last year, obviously, we were in an area where none of us knew what was going to happen.
Yes.
And from that point of view, we came back into the garden probably late spring after the first lockdown, and to say that weeds had taken over was an understatement. But anyway, we ventured on, and since then we've spent an awful long time planning the next stages of what we wanted to do here. As you know, Monty Don is working with us and helping us sort of directing us in certain areas in terms of what we want to achieve, and that's now culminated in the next stage of the project. We have a clear plan. We've had conversations with nurses and patients. We're reconfiguring the pathways here.
Yes, I was seeing your plan earlier. That you're making the paths wider.
2 meters wide.
Yeah, and that's because you want people to be able to walk through the garden side by side, which
Correct.
I think is an amazing change, actually.
Yes.
And that's been inspired by nurses.
Absolutely, and because I'm sure one of the feedbacks that we got was that people wanted to walk alongside each other, have a conversation. We are adding an extra amount of pathways in, and when it's finished, we will have 450 metres of pathways here. And from that point of view, those pathways will take you into each designated zone. We're at a stage now with Monty where we're obviously going to be creating hard structures and the definition of those gardens, but we're very clear on what we want to do, yeah. So it's been very difficult, but we've done an awful lot to be able to get to where we are now.
I can see the difference. You know, you haven't been resting on your laurels.
No.
So last year the festival was online, Hellens Festival, and it donated you or gave £6,500 towards this project. What sort of impact does that have? Does that allow you to take things forward?
Well, of course. I mean, you know, one of the other areas that we've been working on is the pond area. We're just waiting now to plant up that pond area. We spent a long time clearing and shaping the flower beds up there. We've now created an area of a rockery. So we're now, from the funding from Hellens Gardens, that's enabled us to go out and buy all those marginal plants, pond plants, also the shrubs and lilies and also the irises, relevant plants for the whole of the pond. Okay, plus also the gardens itself. So it's a significant amount of money that they give, and of course in terms of planting out, when we're going to be having, well, we will have 5 gardens here, and each of them will have their own planting plans, so that money is going to come into that fund pot. In addition, obviously, the creation of those extra pathways. So all of those hard structures and soft structures are being funded by the money that comes in from Hellens Gardens.
Wonderful. It all sounds tremendous hard work. Have you got more volunteers throughout the pandemic? Have you seen more people come forward?
It's funny, Tamsin, because this year we've had 5 new volunteers, and from that point of view, and they are regular volunteers. They come down here, and so from that point of view, we have our plan. We know what we're doing every week, and it's nice to be able to say, and you move on, don't you, when you know that people are going to come down, and you get certain parts of the project delivered on that week or that day. And so we've got so there's now a total of 9 volunteers here. which is good. Yeah, which is good.
And what's the reaction been of the patients and the families that have been using the garden this year? Because I would imagine it's been more valuable than ever before.
Yeah, I mean the well-being. I mean that April slot when we had that lovely spring weather for those few weeks when we didn't have any rain and we had obviously some warm temperatures. Patients and families and members of staff were coming down and also around the pond area when we were working up there, just to see their faces and to see them and sort of enabling them to understand what we're doing and spend quality time out in the garden, you know, has been very, very beneficial. Yeah, it's been nice.
And what does that mean to you personally? How do you feel when you see that?
Rewarding, really. I think I mentioned last year, I know I did, because when I first came here I was a bit scared and we had that conversation, I remember, you know, but now it's a lovely feeling that enables somebody like me who's retired to give something back and see the difference it makes to people. And you know, it's a lovely feeling, it's a nice feeling.
And
nice.
I'm wondering if people are spending more time in the garden. We're all sort of trying to be more mindful and restful. Have you noticed that people are spending time watching wildlife? I just saw some kites flying over earlier.
Absolutely.
Is that something that's again very important?
Well, it's interesting because immediately behind you we have 3 nesting boxes up in the beams of this gazebo with a camera in them. Okay, which has been installed this year, that goes back into the hospice. I must admit, I don't know whether we've got any nesting taking place at the moment, but yeah, we've got an awful lot of focus on wildlife. The far right hand side over the back there is going to be a wildlife and wildflower garden area. We've already started to create the wildlife areas, bug hotels, etc., and so we're creating that now as we speak. And I was talking this morning and I understand we have local deer here as well, you know, so
you don't want them eating your roses,
we don't want them down here, but I believe they're up in the copse at the top by the pond, so
But I mean, never before has watching nature and plants been so vital to us all. So what you're doing here is so important for the patients. It's undeniable. And just for people that haven't been here, the view, we're mid-May, it's breathtaking. The orchards are just about in flower. I mean, it really is quite spectacular.
It's stunning, and one of the other things that we will be doing in the design is we're creating vista viewpoints as you walk around the new pathways, so that people can stop and take in the amazing views here that we have across the Herefordshire countryside, you know. And in the next 2 weeks, these orchards will be stunning, absolutely stunning.
And I noticed your central labyrinth that you have in the garden has now got a hornbeam hedge round it, which I think is a really exciting development, because it's going to be that cosy area, isn't it, where people can sort of nestle and have conversations and relax.
Absolutely. And also, you know, the labyrinth, because you do notice it when you're working in the garden, people want and sometimes need that solace time and meditation time, and that is the zone, and to actually have the hornbeam hedge around it now is going to give them that sort of comfort area where they're not going to be viewed from outside, so to speak, if that makes sense, you know. And that's why we did it. Back in February we planted those, and it's good to see they're all in leaf.
They're all looking good, and thankfully you have places of shelter for wet days such as this.
Yeah, it's good. So it's good.
So we hope that people go to Hellens Festival,
absolutely,
have a great day, and support the hospice going forward, because it looks like you've got plans to take this garden to the next level. And will you be opening it to the public at all?
Well, of course, the funding from Hellens Garden this year, I mean, our vision is, we've been put back a year, but it's always been the vision here to have this hospice garden and gardens within the garden open under the Hospice Open Garden programme. And our plan is now for the summer of 2022, when we will deliver that, and the funding from Hellens Gardens programme festival will allow that to happen and deliver that date. So that's obviously our vision, to deliver that. Yeah.
Really exciting to have something to work towards.
Absolutely.
Well done, Steve. It's gorgeous.